Assalamu alaikum and welcome. So glad you could join me. Today we're going to dive into one of the most incredible stories in the entire Quran, the story of Yūsuf, or Joseph, peace be upon him. We're going to zoom right in on just 3 pivotal verses that capture this breathtaking journey of his from being abandoned in a well to landing right in the heart of power in Egypt. It's a story that's all about betrayal and hope and a divine plan that is so much bigger than anyone could possibly see at the time.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll witness that moment he's discovered and almost immediately turned into merchandise. Then, we're going to look at the price he was sold for and what that tells us about the poison of envy. From there, we'll follow him into his new home, where we start to see this amazing divine plan unfolding. And finally, we'll pull it all together to see the incredible bigger picture.
All right, let's start at what seems like rock bottom. Yūsuf, alone at the bottom of a well. It is a moment of absolute crisis. But then, our caravan shows up. You're probably thinking, phew, he's rescued, right? Well, this is where the story takes a really sharp and very unexpected turn.
I mean, just try to put yourself in this person's shoes. You're a traveler, you're thirsty, you lower your bucket down a well expecting water, and instead you pull up a child. You can just feel the shock and the pure joy in that exclamation. Good news! It's this beautiful, spontaneous moment of finding life where you least expect it. But that pure moment of discovery, it vanishes. Just like that. In a heartbeat, the caravan's mindset shifts from rescue to revenue. The Quran says they concealed him as merchandise. He goes from being a miraculous discovery to being a product, an item to be sold. It's just so immediate and so stark. And right here, the verse lays out the central tension of the entire story. On one hand, you have the human action. It's sneaky, it's about profit, it's totally short-sighted. But then the verse ends with this profound reality check, and Allah was knowing of what they did. It's this constant dynamic, what people are scheming in the shadows versus the divine oversight that sees absolutely everything.
Okay, so Yūsuf is now officially merchandised, and merchandise, of course, has a price. But the price he gets sold for tells us so much more about the ugly motives of his sellers, his own brothers, than it does about his actual worth.
The Quran is incredibly specific here. He wasn't just sold for a low price. He was sold for a few dirhams, a pittance. And that's not just a casual detail. It's meant to sting. The text wants us to feel the insult of that price, to really grasp how utterly devalued he was in that moment. And the original Arabic is just so powerful. The term used is thamaning bakhsin. Now, this isn't just a sale price. This is an insultingly low price, a throwaway price. It's the kind of price you give for something you hold in complete contempt. It's a moral statement far more than it is a financial transaction.
So you have to ask, why so cheap? And this is the absolute core of it. His brothers weren't looking to get rich. Their greed wasn't for money. Their greed was for relief. Relief from their own jealousy. By selling him for practically nothing, they were making their final hateful statement. You are worthless to us.
Now, just when it seems like things couldn't possibly get any worse for Yūsuf, the story completely flips the script. He's sold in Egypt, but not to just anybody. He lands in the household of a high-ranking official, and what looks like the end of his story is actually the beginning of his true mission. And just listen to what his new owner says to his wife. Make his residence comfortable. He sees something special in Yūsuf. It's this interesting mix of kindness and savvy thinking. He's thinking, hey, this boy could be useful. Maybe we'll adopt him as our son. It's this tiny glimmer of hope, an investment in a person, not just a purchase. And just as we're all breathing a little sigh of relief for Yūsuf, the narrative pulls the camera way, way back. The Quran makes it absolutely crystal clear. This was no accident. This was not a lucky break. This is all part of a much, much bigger design. And here it is, the divine commentary that changes how we see everything. And thus, we established Joseph in the land. Just focus on that word, established. He wasn't just sold. He was placed. Placed there for a specific reason, to be taught, to be prepared. His time in servitude is actually his time in school.
So what's he studying in this divine classroom? The verse tells us, Ta'wil al-ahadith. This is Yūsuf's God-given gift, his superpower, if you will. It's the ability to interpret dreams, sure, but also to understand the hidden meanings behind events, to see the real story unfolding beneath the surface. And Egypt is the place where he will perfect this incredible skill.
And the verse wraps up with this powerful, all-encompassing truth. Every character in this story, the jealous brothers, the greedy caravan, even the hopeful Egyptian official, they're all acting based on what they can see. But this line reminds us that God's plan is always the one in control, always unfolding, even and especially when we can't see it.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. When you look at these three verses back to back, what do they really show us? They paint this unbelievable picture of how an apparent tragedy can be the very pathway to a magnificent purpose. It's a whole saga packed into just a few lines.
I mean, just look at this trajectory. From the despair of the well, to the humiliation of being cargo, to the insult of a cheap sale. And then suddenly, he's not just a slave, he's established in a place of influence, being prepared for his destiny. Every single step down was actually a step up in a plan he couldn't yet see. So, what are the big lessons for us? Well, you see this incredible contrast between the limited human viewpoint, which is so often driven by ego and emotion, and the divine perspective, which is all-knowing, patient, and purposeful. It teaches us that what might feel like a catastrophe in our own lives could actually be the training ground for something greater.
And that brings us to the final powerful question that this story really leaves us to wrestle with. It invites us to look at our own struggles, our own moments in the well, and to ask ourselves, what if this isn't just a setback? What if beneath the surface of all this difficulty, a greater purpose is being carved out for me?